in the raw. Your friend, your brother, me, HAJI, Dr. ROSHAN can in the raw. So the newly elected leader, Nigel Hughes, leader of the Alliance for Change, wants an independent investigation into the Calvin Brutus matter. I cannot say anything or make any judgment, but I have always known Calvin Brutus as a gentleman and a scholarly police officer, because that is how I live. But at the same time, I always wondered why, for several years, I requested 2 high-powered AR rifles, just 2. And overnight, we see people getting security services with, in some cases, dozens of high-powered weapons. We wanted only 2. A company that has been in existence for 45 years. 7th of August, ladies and gentlemen, will be 45 years since the start and the commencement of RK's Guyana Security Services with $7.50. And generations grew up in front of us. People became adults from childhood knowing us, went into great professions knowing of RKs and knowing the standard that we stand for. Sometimes let down by people, your staff, but always within the context of the law. All the security service that are cropping up and popping up, including the biggest one that one minister gave 37 high-powered weapons to, and then it is alleged that his son has a big position and a director within that security service. And I don't know, but I cannot pay for a company like us, who is always within the law. We don't do money laundering. We don't do drug smuggling. We do not do drug or laundered money transport. We do not get involved in any kind of illegality. Us, peoples like us, RK's Guyana Security Services, professional guard services headed now by Sean Kirkpatrick. His father was Dougal Kirkpatrick. Maurice Amares. We are the powerhouses of honesty and dignity in this country. And we can't get what these newcomer boys do and come up. And it is said it costs $1.5 million for a license and $1.5 million per weapon. I can't believe this is happening. I grew up with men like Lloyd Barker, men like Laurie Lewis, Balram Raghubir, before Laurie Lewis, and the other commissioners that came along the line until current ones. But I never saw a situation by which allegations are leveled, openly leveled, that is $1.5 million for a gun and $1.5 million for a security surveillance license, which has been sold, I heard, been sold and then reapplied in another relative name for another security service. So security service has become like selling Tomren and Tomren ball. This elegant industry has become that. Now, I just thought I raised that in my take, according to what is being said out there. I'm a great friend and lover of the Guyana Police Force. My father was a senior police officer. He came off as acting assistant commissioner. So I am very close with the police department, and I will stand for honor, dignity, and no one in the police department can point a finger to me, and that is why they, in many ways, they respect me. I know also many who get security's license by someone just calling because of the authority and power in the country, give this one a license, give this one so many guns. And some of us could not get one gun, even though we had applied for several others to upgrade our .32 weapons. I and one other man, a youngster of a security company having, it is alleged, political clout, making mockery of me that I'd in the business so long, and he's a little boy, but we know all that he's doing and other things. He feels so protected and he's showing off, cussing his guards at various places, abusing them. But he's so powerful and has so many power weapons, and he's making mockery of a guy like me who is truly one of the most honorable with men like Maurice Amres, men like Sean Kirkpatrick, and so on, Mr. Hopkinson of Innovation Security, I think it is. These are men of class and caliber, you know? And when you have people in the industry, that was in the newspaper the other day, one who went to jail in America, came back and is suspected to be a clandestine operative, getting back his security service license, and another one that was forced into bankruptcy, opened back a security service with another name. And they are with a top minister talking about paying good wages and conditions for security guard. And both of them are so highly suspect, and even both of them, it is even believed, criminal in many ways, stealing the workers' NIS. I thought I mentioned that for what it is worth, ladies and gentlemen, but let me read this article, and it has to do with Nigel Hughes calling for this and that. Now, Nigel is a man, generally, I respect him as a lawyer. I respect him that he could win cases, even though the people are guilty. He find areas in law by which the evidence is not enough or wrong charge, and he wins some massive cases because of those kind of interpretation that he brings into the court, right? Then also it is alleged that ExxonMobil would love to have him in a major political position, if possible, president of the country. But that is another case and another matter. He is now calling for an independent inquiry into the Calvin Brutus matter. Now, I just want to ask if Calvin Brutus is charged, Mr. Nigel Hughes, beg your pardon, and he hired you to defend him, will you refuse the job? Call it what it may, a local investigation or external independent investigation, call it as it may, Mr. Hughes. Would you refuse the case if he hires you to defend him in a court of law? And would you try to find excuse me, little bits of legal shenanigans to get him off? I'm not making any judgment on Brutus. Like I said, Mr. Brutus, Deputy Commissioner, has always dealt with me on a platform of professionalism and goodness. What he was doing at the side or under the table, I don't know. But he was always very helpful when people like us we need a support or a help in processing or switching and so on. He would advise and help. I have to applaud him for that. The rest of the things I don't know. So, but I just want to ask, before I read this article from AGP Nightly News, the newly elected leader of the Alliance for Change, Nigel Hughes, recently called for an independent external probe into allegations of financial impropriety against Assistant Police Commissioner Calvin Brutus. But I want to ask, would you take the case? Would you say now, Mr. Nigel Hughes, if Calvin Brutus is charged by Soku or whatever, will you refuse to take the case? Or will you charge your high fees Remember, I'm not against you, Mr. Hughes. I don't have anything against you. This is how politics goes, and it's just making the point, would you refuse the case? Can you tell us in open whether you will refuse the case? Good. The Guyana's police force cannot be expected to investigate itself, and I'm reading, particularly at the level of allegations of criminal activity against high-ranking members, Hughes said. The powers vested in the commissioner, who can influence the conduct of any police investigation into his deputy, coupled with his clear attempt to provide cover for his deputy, necessitates his removal from the office during the course of the investigation. Hughes also suggested that Clifton Hicken, having passed the retirement age, should consider retiring. Now, again, Clifton Hicken, I've known him as a little boy, joining the Guyana Police Force, 17 plus, while I was already dynamic and a kind of a young man in the Arc's security and so on. And he said the other day, I was one of his mentors. He liked the way I operated, and he looked up to me. And nice to know, and I always respected him and loved him. But, I agree. When time for retirement comes, you need to go to make way for the other generation to take over. You cannot stymie people's opportunities, because time is of essence. People are getting old, and they got ideas, and they will not bring out the fantastic ideas that they have in order to enhance a retiring commissioner or other senior dignitaries in any institution. RK is kind of free media. But I know for a fact, these things happen. It is not he who makes the decision to retire or not. It had to have been offered by the chief head of the state, because they feel comfortable with him in this crucial time. They probably would prefer a man of his expertise and experience, especially all that he went through under the APNU, in which they moved him into a department and must have really pained and hurt him. But the fact remains, to stay on the job or to go is really the responsibility of the government, of the cabinet, and they feel comfortable with him as a professional, and I personally respect the man tremendously. Now, I do think the government should let the gentleman go, the other competent people, and these other officers got brilliant ideas. They're not going to bring it out now. I know this. I have been around, Mr. President. VP Jagdev, I have been around. I have traveled. I know. I understand police work and the hierarchy and how things operate. And I also get some very serious information, things that happen in most closed-door sessions. Sometimes I have a tendency, it's my forte. As Laurie Lewis would say, former Commissioner ROSHAN, that's your forte, because you get some amazing information that he couldn't get, and I will get information before him. So, ladies and gentlemen, my colleague is giving me a headache here. Anyhow, so ladies and gentlemen, friends and families, in the raw. I do think the Commissioner, Clifton Hicken, should enjoy his retirement, or let him enjoy his pre-retirement, and then the government has so much things to give him. Give him a high commissionership, a diplomatic position, or something within the office of the president, something within the governmental structure. Some new entity can be created. This is my suggestion. Government of Guyana. Take him out, let another man move in and do his proper work and bring his new ideas. Now, Hughes suggested we could invite somebody from Barbados or Jamaica to come and conduct that investigation. No problem. I agree. However, Vice President Jagdev, perhaps unaware of the very close friendship between head of the Special Organized Crime Unit, Fazil Karimak, and Calvin Brutus is positive that there will be no pressure to alter the outcome of the investigation. So they're pretty sure that Jagdev technically knows of the relationship, but he don't believe that relationship could affect the outcome of the investigation. That that relationship between the two would neither be here nor there. There will be no cover-up. The president himself is looking into the investigation, Jagdev said. The VP, who doesn't see a potential conflict of interest in the investigation, said that we must not, for the purpose of politics or for ratings or to get a good newspaper article, vilify people in the police force. And embattled Brutus has since been sent on leave developing story. I am not making any judgment against the man. I find it very strange that the kind of money that is alleged was in his office. But I'm saying also, running a security service for 45 years, those who don't run security services are paying some amazing sums of money, and the talk is $1.5 million for a security license and $1.5 million per weapon. So who can afford those weapons? Nobody in the legal business. So we got to investigate, Mr. President, Mr. VP. We got to investigate for the last 4 years, 5 years, who are these people that own these security services, and two, many of them are using certain names while they are the power in the background. Certain money launderers and suspected narco traffickers are using legal weapons, and they are putting fronts to run to whose name are on the paper to apply, but they are doing what they got to do in the background. It is alleged, it is said, friends and families. Government, investigate, call all of them, question them, put pressure on them, threaten them, and see how they are going to probably start talking. I hope everything works out in the favor of Calvin Brutus, whom I have always had a respect and an honorable, decent communication and support. Good man otherwise. Enter. Your friend, your brother, me. HAJI, Dr. ROSHAN can enter. Saying thank you. Farewell.